all these rejections from the middle Bollinger Band.
Resistance we're going to need.
If you actually see here, we get a
And we'll look for a healthy higher
I
low.
would not
don't have
be
the
convinced
pullback
to
to
enter a long trade.
Hello, crypto friends. Hope you're doing wonderful. We have a big pullback now. Things getting a little bit accelerated to the downside. We're going to be looking at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and BCH. First, I want to talk about a tweet I made this morning and my thinking behind it and how the trade ended up playing out, because I did play this bounce. At TheChartGuys, if you're not following us yet, but I said the shorts are starting to make me believe we will see a brutal final push down and V-shaped recovery fueled by bulls and shorts covering. This can happen anytime the next few days, perhaps a 6K climax flush. I will play whichever BTC pair is more oversold, referring to Ethereum and Litecoin. So we got that a lot quicker than anticipated just because it happened this morning. Again, this is not calling the bottom by any means, but it's giving us a V-shaped climax bounce that allows for a very easy trade in the sense of protecting. We can easily take small profit or set our stop loss at break even on that kind of a bounce. So what did I mean by the shorts are making me believe that this was going to be the case? So looking at the shorts chart for Bitcoin, we saw 3 days in a row of big bull action. And again, the only thing I am normally looking at these charts for is for when the moves are extended in one direction. And RSI levels, I'm not going to look at the RSI and say it's not the same as a stock or a crypto in the way I'm viewing this chart, but I am just getting a sense of things and knowing, okay, these shorts have been going up for this many hours in a row. And if we see the kind of volume climax flush where we really push the price down, any bulls buying that dip combined with any short covering, which we did see, is going to push the price up faster. So the higher the shorts, the more likely a scenario of a V-shaped recovery. The lower the shorts, the less likely. That's just an observation that I've made recently or over the last few months. And these shorts, this high this morning when I woke up told me, okay, keep an eye out for the V-shaped dump. So then I saw Bitcoin on the 5-minute time frame, and there's the dump. So as soon as this started, once we got into the second candlestick down here and the 5-minute RSI was approaching single digits, at that point the 15-minute RSI was down approaching single digits. The hourly RSI was down in the teens, the mid-teens, and the 4-hour RSI was down in the teens, and the daily was in the mid-20s. So all of those factors lining up, and I knew all of that off the top of my head because I had looked at the charts right in the morning, added them to TradingView in terms of the potential setup to be watching, and then just was ready to execute. So as soon as this price dropped down, I was scaling in to Litecoin and Ethereum. I decided to play both of them and ended up getting a really nice entry on Litecoin. I meant to get the screenshot of it so you would believe me, but if you've been watching me, you believe me. And I also got people in the chat room watching me post it real time. But anyways, what I did to get into the Litecoin trade on the 5-minute time frame was I actually got in with the bid, and that's because the bottom of Bitcoin was not hit yet. So I put my bid at the top order. So I was the top bid. We got the last push down. I believe I filled at 89.36, something along those lines. And I had my buy-in order lower. It was 89.15 or 89.10. And I saw, okay, we're slowing down the selling pressure. And another thing I always watch for is the selling pressure on the order book. How many market sells are being hit? How many market buys are being hit? So the market sells were slowing down, and I said, we might not get that 89.15 fill, and I don't care about 20 cents. So I moved my bid up, it filled, and then the bounce got going. So I got a really nice order on Litecoin, and I got filled on Litecoin another position earlier. So my average ended up being in the upper 90s because I got filled in the 91s, and then I got filled right near the bottom. So then I ended up taking profit, and we'll go over that when we look at Litecoin, why I took profit. But the same thing with Ethereum. I scaled into Ethereum, took some profit on the way up, and now we're watching the hourly equilibrium patterns. And let's start on this time frame because this is where it is the most clear setup in my opinion. We have our low of the dump for everybody, our high of the bounce, and we're going to be looking for a higher low and a tightening equilibrium pattern to play out into tonight over the next, let's say, next 4 or 5 hours. And I'm being cautious here because I can envision a scenario where we get a climax flush below 6,000 that gives us, again, really oversold levels with the hourly down in the teens, the 4-hour down in the teens, and the daily then approaching closer to 20 if that does play out. So I'm remaining protective, and I'm playing against the trend when I'm playing bounces, so I'm quicker to lock in profit, and I'm protective. And so selling some for profit and making some gains on the day, you can't look at it in the mindset as this is going to be the bottom, I'm going to nail it, because there's been so many fake outs on the way down, at least half a dozen where, maybe this is the bottom when it doesn't end up being the bottom. So we have to protect against that. Think about the odds. What are the odds that you're going to nail the bottom on this time versus what are the odds that we're going to bounce and set a lower high and continue to consolidate? So because the odds are more likely that we're going to continue to consolidate, I'm taking profit on these bounces. And I know worst case scenario, that it's not going to rocket ship away without me in this current setting. So it looks like we might be forming our higher low right now. Hourly time frame is where it's going to be at. 4-hour time frame is going to give us an inside bar, very likely. If it's an inside bar, bear break, the 4-hour RSI is going to get right back down in the teens, and we're going to look for that 6,000 flush. If we see a bull break, again, the hourly exponential resistance has been a great guide of rejecting the price. And if we get a bull break, we're going to have to see these levels turned into support. If they turn into support, we zoom in out to the 4-hour, and the exponential resistance there. So again, zoom out on every time frame, the 15-minute. Look at the bounce. Look at these exponential resistances. That is another reason I took profit. Bitcoin was hitting exponential resistance that has rejected the last few bounce attempts. So right in line again, 26 period here, the blue line, rejecting the top of the bounce 1, 2, 3 times now. And there's another attempt, that's 4 times. And we're just watching it drive the price down. So it is still rejecting the price, and there is nothing changing at this point. The bulls aren't proving anything. They proved a nice solid oversold bounce. That's about it. And I even played Gbtc. We'll cover that in a moment. That's the stock that tracks Bitcoin, and I traded that on this oversold bounce as well. Got some small profit. Didn't let that one ride as much, but there's something I want to point out there, and it's still trading right now after hours as I look at it. So anyways, that's where we stand. It's the hourly time frame. Tightening equilibrium, we're certainly familiar with those, and we'll watch for the volume spike to indicate the break in that range. Ethereum was the bounce leader by far, and you can see here, some people are looking for the potential bullish reversal, inverse head and shoulders pattern, and the setup is there. If we pull back from a higher low and then break to a higher high, because we have a double top right here, 480.40 and 480. So if we break that level, that will follow through with the inverse head and shoulders pattern that people are looking for. And again, the hourly time frame, here's our higher low, so we're looking for the potential of an equilibrium. But Ethereum is stronger, and I can say that because look at the 5-minute time frame, and look at this bounce where we had our high of the bounce, higher low, higher high, and then we just kept going. But this higher low and higher high happened well before Bitcoin or Litecoin pulled off the same maneuver and saw that significant follow through all the way up to the 470s. So I scaled in. Not sure my exact fills. I just got back from an appointment, so I'm a little all over the place. But my exact fills were probably an average around the upper 450s by the time the bounce started. And again, when I'm scaling in, I'm not using full positions. By the end of it, I probably had 50% positions by the two of Ethereum and Litecoin combined. And again, great profit, day maker, but not going to put myself at too much risk there. So bounce has followed through. Very healthy consolidation. This little the 5-minute lower highs have broken. So let's see if the bulls make their way back up into the tightening range. The hourly time frame here is more bullish for Ethereum because look at the proximity of the bounce, the size of the bounce, and how we have pulled that back here with very limited consolidation. And we compare it to Bitcoin, and it's not as significant a bounce, and it's a bit more of a pullback. So definitely a more bullish setup for Ethereum. And without even looking at it, again, this is why I don't as often look at the Bitcoin short charts or look at the comparison of these names, because I know without looking at it that ETH BTC has made some significant ground on this bounce just by how they look. And so there's our oversold bounce there on the 4-hour time frame. And that is obvious because it was a much more bullish bounce on Ethereum than it was on Bitcoin. So a significant bounce on that pairing. And Litecoin as well. Litecoin had a little bit more strength, not as significant, but I know we're going to see an oversold bounce here as well. There it is, breaking the lower highs. So Litecoin and Ethereum both gained ground on Bitcoin from oversold conditions on the pairing with Bitcoin chart. So Ethereum, again, that's where we stand. Potential inverse double top at 680 that needs to break, or excuse me, 480. Remember the 600s? So 480 needs to break for that double top. 4-hour RSI, not as oversold. Daily RSI, not as oversold as Bitcoin. So again, there's differences here and a little bit better of a bounce so far. I'm still holding partial positions in Ethereum and Litecoin. And the reasoning for that is, I'm not trying to hit a home run. I took profit. That's a nice gain on the day. That's one step forward. Tomorrow I'll look to do that again. But I can put these other orders at break even and say, all right, if the bounce gets further follow through, I want to have a position. And if not, I will give back a little bit of profit to give the bulls the potential to prove themselves to me. So I am going to hold Ethereum, some Ethereum, and see if they can give this reversal pattern and turn things around. Litecoin, I was really liking Litecoin because of how overextended it was getting in comparison to Bitcoin. And again, its chart down here, the hourly RSI was down around 20, the 4-hour RSI was under 20. So the fact that Bitcoin's RSI was so oversold on the 4-hour and Litecoin Bitcoin comparison chart was so oversold, the odds are in favor of Litecoin gaining on Bitcoin on that bounce. So very significant bounce here. I'm absolutely going to take profit there. We were hitting the hourly exponential resistance. When's the last time we've gotten over hourly exponential resistance? It hasn't happened in a couple days. So I'm going to take profit on the first extreme move to the upside. And again, it's not likely that the price is going to completely run away here when we're in a bearish downtrend. It's just going to we're just going to zoom out to a different exponential resistance and look for that rejection. So we ended up pulling back from there. The hourly time frame here is more likely an equilibrium as well. Again, compared to Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's much more like Bitcoin. Low, high of the bounce, and now we're looking for a higher low. And because of how much we have pulled back, we're very likely to stay in an equilibrium. So Ethereum is the most likely to just see continuation. And it will do that first. If it does do it, it'll make a bull break first, and Litecoin and Bitcoin would be behind it because they have more ground to make up because of the size of consolidation after the top of the bounce was hit. So at this point, equilibrium is where I'll probably use my stop levels for the rest of my positions. Probably put it right below 90.78 if we do drop down to the low here. And for Ethereum, maybe I'll put it below 464.81. Checking in on BCH, how did the bounce look there? I was not paying much attention, admittedly. I had a lot going on, especially with the Gbtc orders as well. So I stick to the names that I'm more comfortable with. But the daily time frame, again, not as oversold. Ethereum and BCH are pairings that are close to each other in terms of similar chart setup. Bitcoin and Litecoin is the other pair. So on the 4-hour time frame, inside bar forming, we are oversold. RSI is down at 24. The hourly RSI didn't even get down to the teens, so not as oversold as everybody else. The bounce was from 800 up to 840. So essentially a 5% bounce. That seems pretty in line with everybody else. I think Litecoin got a stronger bounce than that. And just want to check that real quick. The Litecoin dropped down to 89, much stronger bounce. Well, not much stronger, but 6-7% compared to 5%. So higher low, again, it's a stronger higher low attempting to form here compared to Ethereum, not to Ethereum. It's similar to Ethereum. It's stronger compared to Bitcoin and Litecoin. Look at how clear this lower high pattern is on the hourly. 1, 2, every single bounce attempt is a lower high. Until that changes, until the bulls prove something to us, we're still in the exact same downtrend and nothing is changing except, again, it's just cooling off oversold short-term RSI levels and allowing for another leg down. So I am still in protection mode for the potential of a Bitcoin 6,000 break, but I have a position in case we don't get that break. BCH, that's about all for that. Same setup as the other names. Nice and easy short-term patterns to be watching. It'll be very clear if we break bullish or bearish from these hourly timeframes. So I want to put out Gbtc because Gbtc is what people with stock accounts trade to have exposure to Bitcoin. And we're looking at the weekly time frame, and it is still in an equilibrium pattern. So this caught me off guard. I was absolutely anticipating it to be in line. It's still in an equilibrium pattern. And you might say, well, it's just a laggard. It's about to break bearish. And that might be the case. But we're holding it. 1017 was the low. And we're currently about 3% above that level. So that's worth noting. And it's also worth noting that we do have a lot of volume here where last week's trading very roughly was about $80 million. So that's significant money that is here. $80 million in 1 week can absolutely have an influence on things, especially when volume is so low and liquidity drops off, as we have seen in Bitcoin over the prior couple of weeks. So this is definitely a factor and something to be keeping an eye on. And I felt like there were a couple little early signals that I was seeing on Gbtc that were clues, but I'm going to keep watching it now because I've never traded it before. Today was my first trade, and I ended up just playing the bounce where we dumped down initially, we bounced, and I got the higher low here, and I had my entry at 1057. I sold some at 1070, to be protective. Again, the same strategy. And then I ended up taking the rest at break even. So that's exactly what I'm looking to do with crypto. Didn't even realize I already did it. So I took half of it with profit, nice little profit on the day. And then I tried to hold it to see if the bounce could get continuation. It did not, and it stopped me out, or it didn't stop me out, but I manually stopped myself out because it's an OTC ticker, I believe. Many brokers don't allow stop losses, which is not cool. But if I'm just sitting, I would never hold this overnight because Bitcoin could dump for 10 hours and I can't sell. So I'm only going to trade this when the market is open and only going to day trade flip it. So that's what I did, ended up being protective, and that's my game plan for Ethereum and Litecoin from here. So overall, the market has not changed. All we did was dump down, saw a very fast short-term recovery, and we're still in the exact same downtrend patterns that we have been in for the last 2 days. So don't lose sight of that. We need to see a break of the hourly lower highs, a break of these equilibrium formations, bullish, to get any kind of follow through, and then we zoom out to the 4-hour time frame. If we don't get that and we get bear breaks, I will be looking to scale in again, but I will be waiting for a 6,000 flush, and I'll probably go pretty aggressive at that point, because if we drop down below 6,000 tonight, that's going to give us RSI levels that we have not seen in a very long time. Below 6,000 tonight, and this Bitcoin RSI is going to be down in the low teens, approaching single digits almost. So again, when that's the scenario and when the daily RSI is going to be approaching 20, I'm comfortable scaling in a little bit more aggressively. And it worked out on this last bounce. The more violent the dump on the 5-minute time frame, as long as there's no news behind it, the more confident I am on starting to scale in pretty aggressively with short-term RSIs this oversold, knowing that all the long-term RSI levels are very oversold as well. So that's where we stand. I appreciate you watching. Continue to do good things out there. I'm going to be traveling this weekend and bouncing around, heading back to the hometown, and I will check in as I can, do videos as I can, but timing and things like that are probably going to be a little bit different. Do good things. Compliment a stranger. Tell them you like their shirt. Tell them something. Their earrings. Doesn't have to be the opposite sex. I was at the airport a week ago, and there was a guy in there with this really colorful suit on, and he was looking fly, and he was checking himself in the mirror, making sure he was good to go. And I let him know he was looking good to go. And you can compliment the same sex as when you're a man, and it doesn't have to make you insecure about your sexuality. So compliment a stranger. Don't be creepy, but who knows what conversation can spark from it. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.